Captain Amelia Vasquez floated in the observation deck of the Aurora station, her weathered hands pressed against the reinforced viewport as Earth turned slowly beneath her. 23 years of service had etched lines around her dark eyes, but they still held the sharp intensity that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced orbital facility. The blue marble below seemed so peaceful, so unaware of the vast darkness that stretched beyond its protective atmosphere. "Captain," came the urgent voice of Communications Officer Chen from behind her. "You need to see this immediately." Amelia pushed off from the viewport, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck as she oriented herself in the station's artificial gravity field. Chen's usually composed face was pale, his fingers trembling slightly as they danced across the holographic interface before him. "What is it, Chen?" "We're receiving a transmission, ma'am. But it's not from anywhere in our system." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The signal is coming from the galactic core." Amelia felt a chill run down her spine. For 3 centuries, humanity had been aware of the intergalactic empire, the vast confederation of worlds that supposedly governed not just the Milky Way, but dozens of neighboring galaxies. Earth had been inducted as a protectorate world 50 years ago, though contact had been minimal. A few diplomatic exchanges, some technological gifts, and the promise of protection in exchange for Earth's compliance with imperial law. "Play it," she commanded. The holographic display shimmered, and suddenly the command center was filled with a voice speaking in perfect galactic standard, a language every Terran officer was required to learn. But this voice was wrong. It carried undertones of panic, of desperate fear. "This is Admiral Corvain of the Imperial Fleet, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. The capital system of Nexus Prime has fallen. I repeat, Nexus Prime has fallen. The priests of the Dark World have breached our defenses. Our fleets are destroyed. The Emperor is missing, presumed dead. All Imperial forces are to implement Protocol Omega immediately. The darkness spreads. May the light preserve us all." The transmission ended in a burst of static, leaving the command center in stunned silence. "Chen, when did this transmission originate?" Amelia's voice was steady, though her heart was racing. "According to the quantum signature, ma'am, 6 hours ago. But that's impossible. Nexus Prime is 26,000 light-years away. Even with quantum entanglement communication, there should be significant delay." Amelia closed her eyes, her mind racing through the implications. Protocol Omega was something mentioned only in the most classified Imperial documents, a last resort scenario that would authorize any Imperial protectorate to act independently in the face of total governmental collapse. "Ma'am," interrupted Navigation Officer Torres, his voice tight with disbelief. "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the local cluster. It's as if something is tearing holes in space-time itself." Before Amelia could respond, the station's lights flickered, and every sensor array began screaming warnings. Through the viewport, she could see stars beginning to dim and disappear, as if something vast and hungry was consuming the very light of distant suns. "All hands to battle stations," she commanded, her voice carrying throughout the station. "Implement lockdown procedures. Chin, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Torres, I want a full sensor sweep of local space. And someone find me our best xenobiologist." As her crew scrambled to comply, Amelia found herself thinking of the old stories, legends really, that some of the older Imperial diplomats had whispered about in the darkest corners of diplomatic receptions. Stories of the Dark World, a realm that existed parallel to normal space, populated by beings of pure malevolence who served entities older than the universe itself. She had dismissed them as superstition. Now, watching the stars disappear one by one, she was beginning to think she had been wrong. Within an hour, Aurora Station had transformed from a peaceful research facility into a hive of military activity. Earth Command had confirmed the loss of contact with all Imperial outposts in the local sector, and satellite networks were detecting the approach of something massive moving through the void between stars. Amelia stood in the station's war room, studying the holographic display that showed their local sector of space. Red zones marked areas where stars had simply vanished, leaving behind wounds in reality itself. The pattern was clear. Whatever was causing this was moving in a direct line toward the Sol system. "Captain," announced Dr. Sarah Kim as she entered the room, her arms full of data tablets and her usually neat hair disheveled from hours of frantic research. As the station's chief xenobiologist and one of the few humans to have actually studied Imperial archives, she was their best hope of understanding what they were facing. "What did you find, Doctor?" Kim activated the room's secondary display, showing ancient Imperial texts written in scripts that predated known galactic civilization. "The Dark World isn't just a parallel dimension, Captain. It's a realm of pure entropy, inhabited by entities that exist to unmake reality itself. According to these records, they're called the Ungmari, beings of living darkness that can consume matter, energy, even time itself." "And the priests?" Amelia asked, though she was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know the answer. "Fallen Imperial citizens who have been corrupted by exposure to Dark World energy. They maintain their intelligence and memories, but their will belongs entirely to the Ungmari. They're the perfect infiltrators. They know all of our defenses, our codes, our weaknesses." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If the priests had access to Imperial knowledge and technology, combined with the reality-warping powers of the Dark World, then Earth, and possibly the entire universe, was facing an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. "Ma'am," interrupted Engineering Chief Marcus Rodriguez, his massive frame filling the doorway. The former Special Forces operative had been recruited to Aurora Station specifically for his expertise in both conventional and exotic warfare. "I've been reviewing our available assets. The Aurora's engines are equipped with experimental quantum drives. If we remove the safety limiters, we might be able to achieve speeds approaching light itself." Amelia nodded slowly. Rodriguez was right. Aurora Station wasn't just a research facility. Hidden beneath its peaceful exterior were weapons and defense systems that rivaled anything in the Imperial arsenal. Earth Command had built it as humanity's secret ace in the hole, a mobile fortress that could serve as either humanity's shield or its sword. "How long would it take to reach Nexus Prime?" she asked. "At maximum quantum acceleration, with limiters removed?" "Approximately 6 hours, assuming the space-time distortions don't interfere with navigation." "The risks?" Rodriguez's expression was grim. "At those speeds, any collision with even microscopic debris would vaporize the station. The quantum field generators could overload and tear us apart at the molecular level. And if the Dark World entities can manipulate space-time, they might be able to trap us in their reality permanently." Amelia walked to the viewport again, looking out at the expanding zones of darkness that were slowly consuming their local star cluster. Earth hung below them, innocent and unaware, its blue ocean still reflecting the light of a sun that might be gone within days. "How long before the darkness reaches Earth?" she asked quietly. Dr. Kim consulted her calculations. "Based on current expansion rates, approximately 72 hours. Then we don't have a choice." Amelia turned back to her team. "Rodriguez, begin preparations for quantum acceleration. Kim, I want everything you can find about Dark World entities and how to fight them. Jin, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're implementing an unauthorized reconnaissance mission under Protocol Omega." "Captain," Jin said hesitantly, "Earth Command has already sent orders. We're to maintain position and prepare for evacuation." Amelia felt a cold smile spread across her face. "Then it's a good thing our communications array just experienced a convenient malfunction. Rodriguez, how long before we can depart?" "Give me 2 hours to modify the engines and prep the weapon systems." "You have 1 hour." She looked around the room at her team, 15 of the best officers humanity had ever produced, now possibly the only thing standing between Earth and total annihilation. "I want to be clear about what we're facing. This is likely a one-way mission. The entities we're going up against have just destroyed an empire that spans multiple galaxies. Our chances of survival are minimal." She paused, giving each of them a chance to leave. None moved. "But if we can gather intelligence on their capabilities, their weaknesses, their intentions, if we can buy Earth even a few extra hours to prepare defenses, then we have to try." Her voice hardened. In 60 minutes, we're going to travel to the heart of the intergalactic empire and find out exactly what destroyed it. And then we're going to figure out how to stop it. The quantum acceleration hit like a physical blow, pressing the crew deep into their acceleration couches as Aurora Station transformed from a graceful research facility into something approaching a weapon of mass destruction. The station's hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle, and the lights flickered as power systems strained to maintain the quantum field that was hurling them across space faster than anything in the known universe. Amelia watched the navigation display with fascination and terror as stars became streaks of light, then compressed into points, then vanished entirely as they exceeded the speed at which light itself could travel. According to their instruments, they were moving through a bubble of folded spacetime, existing in a quantum state between dimensions. "Quantum field holding steady," reported Rodriguez from his engineering station, though sweat beaded on his forehead as he monitored systems that were operating far beyond their design parameters. "We're maintaining 97% of light speed. At this rate, we'll reach the Nexus Prime system in 4 hours and 36 minutes. Any sign of dark world interference?" Amelia asked. Dr. Kim studied her exotic matter sensors, devices that could detect distortions in the fundamental structure of reality itself. "Negative, Captain. But I'm reading something strange. The quantum foam, the background structure of space-time itself, is showing damaged patterns. It's as if something has been feeding on reality." The implications sent a chill through the command crew. If the dark world entities could literally consume the fabric of space-time, then they weren't just a threat to life. They were a threat to existence itself. "Captain," Chen called out, his voice tight with concern. "I'm receiving fragmentary transmissions from throughout Imperial space. Most are automated distress beacons, but some are worse. Put them through." The speakers crackled with static-filled voices speaking in dozens of different languages, the death cries of a galactic civilization. But threading through the chaos were other voices, speaking in perfect galactic standard with the cultured accents of imperial nobility. "The light has failed us," one voice intoned with religious fervor. "The old ways were weakness. In darkness, we find truth. In entropy, we find purpose. The Amari show us the path to transcendence." "That's a priest," Dr. Kim whispered. "They're broadcasting conversion messages." Another voice joined the first, this one younger, more desperate. "Please, anyone who can hear this. My name is Scholar Vex of the Archival Collective. We were studying the ancient texts when the priests arrived. They're not destroying the Empire, they're converting it. Every world they touch becomes another source of darkness. The Emperor didn't die, he joined them willingly. Stay away from Nexus Prime. It's become something worse than death." The transmission cut off in a burst of static that sounded almost like screaming. "How much further?" Amelia asked, though she was beginning to wonder if they were flying towards salvation or damnation. 3 hours, ma'am. But I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies ahead. It's as if the Nexus Prime system has become heavier." Amelia nodded grimly. She had studied enough theoretical physics to understand the implications. If the dark world entities could increase the mass of stellar objects, they could literally reshape the galaxy to suit their purposes. "All hands, prepare for emergency deceleration. When we drop out of quantum drive, I want full shields and weapons ready. We're going in dark and fast." As Aurora Station hurtled through the void toward the heart of a fallen empire, Amelia found herself praying to gods she had never believed in. Behind them, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that its fate might rest in the hands of 15 humans racing against the darkness itself. The stars ahead began to shift and distort, taking on colors that hurt to look at directly. They were approaching the edge of something that wasn't quite space and wasn't quite time, the boundary between their reality and whatever the dark world had made of the intergalactic empire. 2 hours to target, Rodriguez announced. Amelia gripped the arms of her command chair and prepared to lead her crew into the unknown. The Nexus Prime system materialized around them like a nightmare made manifest. Where once had stood the crown jewel of galactic civilization, a system of 12 worlds orbiting a carefully engineered star, now hung something that defied comprehension. "Jesus Christ!" whispered Navigation Officer Torres, his voice barely audible as he stared at the sensor readings. The primary star had been transformed into something that pulsed with sickly purple light, its surface crawling with geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. The 12 worlds still orbited, but they had been reshaped into perfect spheres of black metal, their surfaces covered with structures that seemed to extend in directions that didn't exist in normal three-dimensional space. "Report," Amelia commanded, forcing her voice to remain steady. Dr. Kim's hands shook as she read from her instruments. "The star's mass has increased by roughly 300%, but its energy output has decreased to less than half normal levels. The planets, Captain, according to these readings, they're hollow. Completely hollow. But the gravitational signatures suggest they're more massive than before." "The Imperial fleet?" Chen had gone pale as he studied the tactical display. "Ma'am, I'm reading approximately 12,000 starship signatures throughout the system. But they're all broadcasting priest identification codes. The entire Imperial Navy has been converted." Amelia felt her stomach drop. 12,000 ships represented the largest military force in galactic history, enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. If the priests controlled all of them. "Wait," Torres interrupted. "I'm detecting something else. There, in the shadow of the primary moon. It's a ship, but it's not broadcasting priest codes." The main display zoomed in on a battered Imperial dreadnought hiding in the shadow of a moon that had been transformed into a writhing mass of organic technology. The ship's hull was scarred and blackened, but its quantum signature was clean, untainted by dark world influence. "Can we make contact?" Chen's fingers flew over his controls. "Attempting to establish secure communication. Got them. They're responding on emergency frequencies." The view screen flickered, and a haggard face appeared, a Thraxian female with the distinctive ridge scales of imperial nobility. Her violet eyes were filled with exhaustion and barely controlled terror. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself immediately. This system is under priest control. You need to leave now, before they detect you. This is Captain Amelia Vasquez of the Terran vessel Aurora Station. We received Admiral Corvain's distress signal." "Are you Admiral Corvain?" The alien's expression shifted to surprise, then desperate hope. "Captain Vasquez, I am Admiral Seriax, formerly of the Imperial Third Fleet. Admiral Corvain he's gone. Converted 3 days ago during the fall of the capital. I command the last free Imperial forces in the sector, exactly 47 ships hiding in various shadow zones throughout the system. Admiral, we need to understand what we're facing. Can you brief us on the enemy capabilities?" Seriax's image flickered as her ship's damaged communication array struggled to maintain the connection. "The priests aren't just using dark world technology, Captain, they've become extensions of it. They can manipulate matter at the quantum level, phase in and out of our reality at will, and they seem to possess a collective intelligence that spans multiple dimensions. Weaknesses? Unknown. We've tried everything. Quantum torpedoes, gravitational weapons, even experimental temporal bombs. Nothing seems to cause permanent damage. But there is something." She paused, her expression growing more desperate. "The control center. The priests have established some kind of central nexus in the Imperial Palace on Nexus Prime itself. We believe they're using it to coordinate their conversion of Imperial space. If that facility could be destroyed, it might disrupt their control over the converted forces," Amelia finished. "Admiral, what are your current tactical capabilities?" "Minimal. My ships are running on emergency power, most of our weapons are depleted, and we're detecting priest patrol fleets moving through the system in search patterns. We have maybe 6 hours before they find us." Amelia made her decision. "Admiral, we're going to attempt an infiltration of the control center. Can your forces provide a distraction?" "Captain, with respect, that's suicide. The palace is surrounded by converted Imperial defenses. Even if you could somehow penetrate their shields, the priests themselves they're not entirely physical anymore. Our weapons pass right through them. Dr. Kim suddenly looked up from her research console. Captain, I might have something. According to these Imperial archives, dark world entities are vulnerable to quantum coherence weapons, devices that force reality to return to its natural state. Aurora Station's primary weapon system is a quantum coherence cannon. Seriax's eyes widened. A coherence cannon? That's theoretical technology. We've been trying to develop them for centuries. Humanity tends to be good at weaponizing theoretical concepts, Amelia said grimly. Admiral, here's what we're going to do. Your forces will stage a feint attack on the priest fleet in the outer system. While they're responding to that threat, Aurora Station will make a high-speed run on the control center. If we can get close enough to use the coherence cannon, the quantum feedback could destroy half the system, Seriax warned. Better than letting the darkness spread to Earth. Amelia's voice was final. Admiral, give us 2 hours to prepare, then begin your attack. And Admiral? It's been an honor. The transmission ended, leaving Aurora Station alone in the shadow of a dead empire. Amelia looked around at her crew, 15 humans who had just volunteered to assault the center of an interstellar nightmare. Rodriguez, I want every weapon system we have online. Kim, prepare the coherence cannon for maximum yield. Shin, plot us a course to the palace using gravitational slingshots around the converted planets. Maximum speed, minimum exposure. As her crew prepared for what might be humanity's last desperate gamble, Amelia found herself thinking of Earth, still spinning peacefully in space 30,000 light-years away. Whatever happened in the next few hours would determine whether that blue world would see another sunrise. 2 hours, she whispered to herself. 2 hours to save everything. The Imperial Palace on Nexus Prime had once been a marvel of architectural achievement, a crystalline spire that stretched from the planet's surface into orbit, its faceted walls reflecting the light of twin suns and brilliant displays of color. Now it had been transformed into something that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its dark metal surfaces crawling with symbols that shifted and writhed when observed directly. Aurora Station approached at maximum stealth, its quantum drives muffled and its hull coated with adaptive camouflage that bent light around the ship like water. Behind them, Admiral Seriax's desperate gambit was drawing priest forces away from the planet as her 47 surviving ships staged a valiant but doomed assault on the outer system's defenses. Distance to target, 200,000 kilometers and closing, reported Torres, his voice tight with concentration as he navigated through a maze of orbital defenses that defied the laws of physics. Priest response? Amelia asked. Chen monitored the communication frequencies, listening to the alien harmonics that served as the priest's coordination network. They're definitely responding to Admiral Seriax's attack, ma'am. But I'm detecting some kind of singing. It's not on any frequency we can analyze directly, but it's causing interference with our quantum coherence systems. Dr. Kim looked up from her console with alarm. Captain, that's not singing, it's a reality manipulation field. The priests are trying to alter the local space-time structure to prevent us from using the coherence cannon. Rodriguez, how long until the weapon is ready? 90 seconds, ma'am. But if they keep distorting space around us, the quantum alignment will fail. Amelia felt the familiar weight of command decisions that could doom or save billions of lives. The mission required them to get close enough to the palace to guarantee a clean shot, but every second they spent approaching gave the priests more time to counter their attack. New plan, she announced. Torres, plot an emergency deceleration that brings us to a full stop 50,000 kilometers from the target. Rodriguez, fire the coherence cannon the moment we drop out of quantum drive. We get one shot at this. Captain, Dr. Kim protested. At that distance, the quantum field won't be focused enough to penetrate their defenses. Then we'll have to pray that 47 Imperial dreadnoughts provide enough distraction to weaken those defenses. Amelia activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, prepare for emergency deceleration and immediate combat. We are about to attempt something that has never been tried before. A direct assault on dark world entities using untested technology. If this works, we might save the galaxy. If it fails, we'll probably cease to exist in any meaningful sense. She paused, looking around at her crew one final time. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve with all of you. Whatever happens next, Earth will know that humanity stood and fought when the darkness came. 30 seconds to firing position, Torres announced. The palace grew larger in their view screen, its impossible geometry becoming more pronounced as they approached. Amelia could see vast structures extending from its surface in directions that made her eyes water, and she realized that the building was actually larger than the planet it sat on. Most of its mass existed in folded space-time dimensions. Deceleration in 10 seconds, Torres called out. Through the communication array, they could hear the death cries of Admiral Seriax's fleet as the priest forces overwhelmed them with weapons that turn matter into energy, and energy into something worse than vacuum. The Thraxian Admiral's final transmission was a simple phrase. For the light. Mark, Torres said. Aurora Station dropped out of quantum drive like a stone, its conventional engines screaming as they fought to bring the massive vessel to a relative stop. Immediately, alarms began shrieking as priest detection systems locked onto them. They know we're here, Chin reported unnecessarily, as the space around them began to fill with converted Imperial starships emerging from whatever dark dimension they had been hiding in. Rodriguez, fire! The quantum coherence cannon unleashed a beam of pure reality, a weapon that forced the universe to remember what it was supposed to be. The beam struck the palace's shields, and for a moment, the twisted structure flickered back to its original crystalline beauty. Then the dark world energies reasserted themselves, and the beam was absorbed into the palace's impossible geometry. No effect, Rodriguez reported, his voice hollow. Incoming, Torres called out as priest ships began firing weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Aurora Station shuddered as its shields absorbed impacts that registered on instruments as negative energy, attacks that somehow reduced the ship's mass rather than adding to its momentum. Amelia realized they were being hit with concentrated entropy, weapons that aged their ship by centuries and seconds. Hull breach on Deck 7, Rodriguez reported. The metal is just crumbling. Dr. Kim, options? Amelia demanded as priest ships closed in from all directions. The coherence cannon isn't powerful enough at this range, Kim said, then suddenly her eyes widened. But Captain, what if we don't try to destroy the palace? What if we try to restore it? Explain quickly. The palace was originally built using quantum crystalline technology. It was designed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. If we could reverse the dark world corruption instead of fighting it directly. Do it. Kim's fingers flew over her controls, reprogramming the coherence cannon to emit a restoration field instead of a destruction beam. Around them, Aurora Station continued to age under the priest assault, its hull developing stress fractures that spread like cancer through the ship's superstructure. Captain, Chin called out. I'm receiving a transmission from the palace. It's the Emperor. The main screen flickered, and a figure appeared that had once been the ruler of a galactic empire. The Emperor's form was barely humanoid now, his flesh replaced with dark energy that shifted between dimensions, his eyes glowing with the cold light of entropy itself. Captain Vasquez? The thing that had been the Emperor spoke with a voice like collapsing stars. You have come so far to witness the birth of a new reality. Why do you struggle against inevitability? Your coherence weapons cannot restore what has willingly embraced transformation. Because someone has to, Amelia said simply. The Emperor thing laughed, a sound that made reality itself shiver. Your species shows such promise. Join us, Captain. Become vessels of entropy, agents of the final order. We offer immortality, power beyond your comprehension, freedom from the tyranny of linear existence. Counteroffer, Amelia replied. Go back to whatever hell spawned you. Fire, she commanded. The modified coherence cannon unleashed a beam of pure restoration, a weapon that reached through dimensions to touch the original crystalline structure that lay buried beneath layers of dark world corruption. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the palace began to change. The dark metal surfaces began to crack, revealing glimpses of the original crystal beneath. The impossible geometric extensions started to collapse back into normal three-dimensional space. And throughout the system, the converted priest ships suddenly began broadcasting confused distress signals as their crews remembered who they had once been. "It's working," Dr. Kim breathed. But their victory was short-lived. As the palace continued to revert to its original form, something vast and alien began to emerge from the dimensional spaces that were collapsing. Through the viewscreen, they could see tentacles of pure darkness reaching out from between dimensions, followed by something that their human minds simply refused to process directly. "That's an Omari," Dr. Kim whispered. "A real one." The entity was the size of a moon, composed of condensed entropy that warped spacetime around it simply by existing. As it emerged fully into normal space, stars began to dim throughout the system, their light being absorbed into the creature's impossible bulk. "Rodriguez, how much power do we have left in the coherence cannon?" "Maybe one shot, Captain. But I don't think it'll be enough to affect something that large." Amelia stared at the cosmic horror floating before them and made the only choice that remained. "All power to shields." "Ram it." "Captain?" Torres asked, certain he had misheard. "You heard me. Plot a collision course. If we can't kill it with the coherence cannon, maybe we can disrupt its dimensional stability by introducing our mass directly into its energy matrix." Aurora Station turned toward the Omari like a dart thrown at a mountain. Around them, the restored Imperial ships began joining the attack, their quantum weapons finally able to damage the creature now that it existed fully in normal space. "All hands brace for impact," Amelia announced. "This is going to hurt." Aurora Station accelerated toward the Omari at maximum burn, her crew thrown back in their seats as the ship's engines pushed beyond every safety limit. Behind them, the restored Imperial fleet followed in a desperate charge, their combined firepower carving wounds in the creature's impossible bulk that sealed themselves almost immediately. 30 seconds to impact," Torres announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. The Omari had begun to notice their approach. Tentacles of pure entropy reached out toward Aurora Station, and where they touched the ship's shields, reality itself began to unravel. Amelia could see sections of the hull simply ceasing to exist, not destroyed but literally edited out of the universe. "Rodriguez, prepare to detonate the coherence cannon on impact," she ordered. "If we're going down, we're taking this thing with us." "Ma'am," Dr. Kim called out, her voice tight with discovery. "I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations from the creature's core. I think it's not fully stable in our dimension. If we could disrupt its quantum matrix at exactly the right moment." 20 seconds, Torres counted down. Through the viewscreen, they could see into the Ungari's center, where swirling energies formed patterns that hurt to contemplate directly. But at the very heart of the creature, Amelia could make out something that looked almost familiar, a sphere of crystalline material that pulsed with the same frequency as the restored palace. "That's it," she breathed. "It's using corrupted Imperial quantum crystal technology as an anchor point. Rodriguez, can you target the coherence cannon directly at that sphere? At this range?" "Captain, we'll be inside the creature when the beam fires. The quantum feedback will..." "Will what?" Rodriguez was quiet for a moment as he ran calculations. "Will either restore the crystal to its original state and banish the Omari back to the dark world, or will create a quantum singularity that consumes this entire system." 10 seconds, Torres announced. Amelia closed her eyes, thinking of Earth, of the billions of people who would never know how close they had come to annihilation. When she opened them again, her voice was calm and certain. "Fire!" The coherence cannon discharged directly into the Ungari's core just as Aurora Station penetrated the creature's outer membrane. Reality became fluid around them as their ship existed simultaneously in normal space and the dark world, experiencing past and future as a single eternal moment. For an instant that lasted forever, Amelia could see everything: the birth of galaxies, the death of stars, the endless cycle of creation and entropy that governed the universe. She could see the dark world as it truly was, not a realm of evil, but a necessary part of cosmic balance, a place where worn-out realities went to be recycled into new possibilities. The Umari weren't invaders. They were cosmic maintenance workers, entities whose job was to clean up universes that had become too complex to sustain themselves. But something had gone wrong. The priests had found a way to accelerate the process, to force entropy before its natural time. As the coherence beam reached the crystalline core, she understood. The crystal wasn't just an anchor, it was a regulator, a device that controlled the rate at which reality decayed. The priests had corrupted it, speeding up the universe's natural death by billions of years. The beam struck the crystal, and suddenly Aurora Station was back in normal space, floating in the wreckage of what had once been an entity the size of a moon. Around them, the Nexus Prime system was returning to its original configuration, the star regaining its natural light, the planets reshaping themselves back into worlds where people could live. Report. Amelia called out weakly, surprised to find herself still alive. Minor hull damage throughout the ship, Rodriguez replied, his voice filled with amazement. But we're intact. The Umari is gone. Banished back to whatever dimension it came from. Dr. Kim was staring at her instruments in wonder. Captain, the dark world contamination is clearing throughout Imperial space. The quantum cascade is propagating faster than light. It's reaching every system the priests touched and reversing the corruption. And the priests themselves? Chen's voice was filled with relief. They're transmitting surrender codes, ma'am. Without the Ungari's influence, they're returning to normal. The Emperor is requesting immediate medical assistance for what he calls acute dimensional displacement syndrome. Amelia allowed herself a small smile. Signal the Imperial fleet. Tell them that Aurora Station stands ready to provide assistance to all survivors. And Chen? Send a message to Earth. Tell them the threat has passed, and that humanity has just made some very powerful friends. As Aurora Station began coordinating rescue operations throughout the Nexus Prime system, Amelia found herself back at the observation viewport, watching as the star's light gradually returned to its natural brilliance. The crisis was over, but she knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They were part of something vast and magnificent, a galactic community that had just learned the importance of cooperation in the face of cosmic forces beyond any single species' comprehension. Behind her, her crew worked with quiet efficiency, already adapting to their new role as humanity's ambassadors to the stars. They had traveled to the heart of a fallen empire and found not just darkness, but the strength to stand against it. The universe was a dangerous place, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But as Amelia watched the last of the dark world energies dissipate into harmless quantum foam, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and alien, working to preserve the light against the darkness. And somewhere in the distance, barely visible to their sensors, she could see the first of the Earth Fleet's scout ships arriving to join them, humanity finally ready to take its place among the stars. 3 months after the Battle of Nexus Prime, Captain Amelia Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Imperial Embassy Station, watching as vessels from a dozen different worlds arrived for the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accords. The station, built in orbit around Earth's moon, represented humanity's official entry into the greater galactic community. Still hard to believe sometimes, said Dr. Kim, joining her at the viewport. The xenobiologist had been promoted to Director of Interspecies Research, her expertise in dark world phenomena making her one of the most valued scientists in the restored empire. What's hard to believe? Amelia asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. That we saved them. A few months ago, humanity was barely aware that galactic civilization existed. Now we're being hailed as the saviors of the empire. Through the viewport, they could see the crystalline forms of Altarian vessels, the bioorganic ships of the Verdanian Collective, and the massive dreadnoughts of the restored Imperial Navy. Earth had gone from an isolated protectorate to a full partner in galactic affairs, their quantum coherence technology revolutionizing everything from medicine to faster-than-light travel. The Empire needed saving, Amelia said quietly. But I think we needed saving too. We were becoming too insular, too focused on our own small problems. Now we have a purpose that's bigger than any one world. Rodriguez approached from the engineering section, carrying a data tablet filled with technical specifications. Captain, the Thraxians are requesting permission to establish a quantum research facility in the Jupiter system. They say our approach to coherence technology could help them develop better defenses against future dark world incursions. Approved, Amelia said without hesitation. And Rodriguez? It's Admiral now, remember? She had been promoted to Admiral of the newly formed Earth Defense Force, though she still preferred to be called Captain by her old crew. Aurora Station had been refitted and expanded, now serving as the flagship of humanity's small but growing interstellar fleet. Ma'am, Chen called from the communications array. We're receiving a transmission from the Emperor. He's requesting a private audience with you. Amelia nodded. The Emperor, fully restored to his original form after months of medical treatment, had become something of a friend, though she still found it difficult to reconcile the kindly academic with the entity of pure entropy that the priests had made him into. The holographic display activated, showing the familiar face of Zephyr 9, 847th Emperor of the Intergalactic Empire. His features were humanoid but distinctly alien, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. Captain Vasquez, he said with genuine warmth, I trust the preparations for the Accord signing are proceeding smoothly? Everything's on schedule, Your Majesty. Though I have to admit, I never expected to be planning diplomatic ceremonies. The Emperor laughed, a sound like distant music. None of us expected many things, Captain. Your species has a remarkable gift for adapting to unexpected circumstances. His expression grew more serious. I wanted to speak with you privately because there's something you need to know. Our long-range exploration fleets have detected signs of dark world activity in neighboring galaxies. Amelia felt a chill run down her spine. How bad? Not immediate, the Emperor assured her quickly. But it appears that what happened here was not an isolated incident. There are other Amari entities in distant realms, and other corrupted populations serving them. The universe is larger and more dangerous than we previously understood. What does that mean for us? It means that the galaxy needs protectors, Captain. Beings who understand that sometimes the universe requires those willing to stand against the darkness, regardless of the cost. The Emperor's image leaned forward slightly. Your quantum coherence technology, combined with humanity's apparent immunity to psychological corruption by dark world influence, makes your species uniquely suited to this role. Amelia thought about the implications. They had saved one empire, but apparently there were countless others out there, facing similar threats. You're asking us to become the galaxy's guardians. I'm asking you to continue being who you already are, the Emperor replied. The people who looked at an impossible situation and decided to act anyway. The species that traveled 30,000 light-years to help people they had never met because it was the right thing to do. Through the viewport, Amelia could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel, peaceful and beautiful. But now she knew that beauty was fragile, dependent on the constant vigilance of those willing to protect it. We'll need ships, she said finally. Lots of them. And we'll need allies from every species in the Empire. Already arranged, the Emperor smiled. The new Galactic Defense Initiative will be headquartered here, with you as its first Supreme Commander. Every member world will contribute ships and personnel. We're calling it Project Lighthouse, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As they spoke, the first of the signing ceremony participants began arriving, dignitaries from hundreds of worlds, all coming to witness humanity's formal entry into galactic civilization. But Amelia knew that the real ceremony had already taken place months ago, in the heart of a dying system, when 15 humans decided that some things were worth any sacrifice to protect. Your Majesty, she said finally, we accept. Not because we want to be heroes, but because everyone deserves the chance to see another sunrise. The Emperor's image smiled with something that might have been paternal pride. And that, Captain Vasquez, is exactly why the universe chose you. As the transmission ended, Amelia looked out at the gathering fleet of vessels from across the galaxy, each one representing a world that had chosen cooperation over isolation, hope over despair. The universe was vast and dangerous, filled with threats that could challenge the very nature of reality itself. But standing here, surrounded by friends and allies from 100 different worlds, watching her own blue planet spin peacefully in the void, she felt something she had never experienced before in her years of military service: absolute certainty that they were ready for whatever came next. The darkness might be eternal, but so was the light. And as long as there were people willing to stand against the void, the stars would continue to shine. Behind her, Aurora Station's crew worked alongside their new alien colleagues, human and alien voices mixing in the eternal conversation of those who chose to guard the light against the darkness. The mission continued, but now they wouldn't be facing it alone. The universe was vast, beautiful, and dangerous. But for the first time in cosmic history, it wasn't undefended. In the distance, barely visible against the starfield, the first vessels of the Galactic Defense Initiative began forming up around Earth. Humanity's real journey to the stars was just beginning.